Here we are in the office today. We are working on our police officer. This is his body and his belt, and there is the pirate. That's the front of the pirate chest and his sash and stuff as well. And you see the blue hanging down over the brown pants there. That's part of the illusion once he's done. So what was happened is we were given this pirate here to make by Macy's, and then it turned into this pirate because that's how you trace and draw stuff. And what I did is I used my impromptu ruler here to figure out how tall he was in stuff here. And then based on that, I figured out how many balloons I needed. That's what all the scribbling scratches. Up here was me figuring out on framing stuff, so it kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing there. So we went from this photo, which looks beautiful, this photo, which looks horrendous, to now my recipe that we're working on now. So this is our recipe. That's what a recipe basically looks like, and what we go through when we're told to just make something. We have to figure it out. We have to buy balloons. Sometimes we have to buy double or triple the amount of balloons we need just to figure it out, because sometimes what we think is correct is not correct. So that's why these are really expensive to put together sometimes. And then I made the recipes here. I color coordinate my recipes because I have people like Chris over here who just rock out on music. They're not really paying attention, so they got to know exactly what they're doing, when and how, based on color. So I've got him marked up some stuff there so you can kind of see. So when I was talking about buying extra balloons and prepping, we were doing this police officer, right? Well, we happen to need quite a bit of 6-inch Lincolns, and we are 200 short because none of the distributors I called had them in time. So that's kind of what happened there. But we're making it work. You see these here? See those on the floor that look like 6-inch Lincolns? Yeah, I taught him how to torture himself so that he can turn 11 or 12 inches into 6 inches, and he just loves it. Loves it so much. That's the happy face. But we're putting that together. That'll be for the police officer. That'll be for the police officer, and then we'll do the pirate after. So kind of gives you an idea what it looks like. And most of these are 3 sections long. So the body we've already done. I know it takes an hour and a half. The arms, he's working on a different figure. He's working on the police officer. But the arms we already know. The legs we already know. The hands are unique. We have to do the hands differently. And for the pirate particularly, we have to figure out this leg and this leg separately on the recipe. And then after that, we have additional things that we add, like the gun, the belt sash, the buttons, the face and head. And then finally we have the head, which the directions here are great. Inflate a large blush balloon. Add facial features. That's how my recipe works. But anyway, that is what we're working on today. So while Chris is in the other room blowing up balloons, I'm in my office taking care of emails, getting a hold of client contracts and that kind of stuff. But I tell you, there's so much balloon wasteland going around here. That's us figuring out how to replace those 6 inches there. But there's so much balloon, like, just everywhere. Like, this is all not trash, but like just all over the place. And then I've got my recent boxes here, box after box after box, so you can see they're just filled with balloons that haven't been put away yet, because we're working on turkey, we're working on a police officer, working on the other one I can't remember, the pirate, and then we're also working on some other stuff. But here, I'll show you the computer, kind of how I worked out some of this stuff. So at first it was just like I said, I took the recipe, or the picture of what I had. Let me do it this way so you can see. So I'll pull this guy up over here, pull this guy up over here. So they gave us the first picture here, and so I had to measure, and I just say, okay, well, if it's this size and that's going to be 10 feet, well, now I need to figure out how many sections equal that, so that that's 10 feet. And actually he's 10 feet about right there, so he's actually like 12 to 14 feet. But so yeah, so that's how we did our first one. So you can kind of see kind of how we took this hippo here, and then we turned it into this guy. And so now I have this recipe already, so I can take and I can count and I can figure out. So the bodies were pretty easy for this new one. I just had to figure that stuff out, and it wasn't exactly sized correctly for what we were looking to do, so I had to change some of that. And then the arms and stuff, I pretty much kept the same. I kept them with this like outward look instead of the down look that the other ones have, mostly because it's just, frankly, it's easier and it takes up more space visually, so I kind of stuck with that. And then here's the legs that you can see too. So this hippo happens to be wearing like these weird socks things, so had to figure out how to do that. But that's funny, Wesley. But yeah, so I took these guys, and for the policeman, he has shoes that are about here that come out. So I'm thinking maybe a 3-foot round here, maybe 350 around the bottom, maybe balloon bonded or something there to hold it in place, and then the rest is blue. So he's more simple. And then his belt is not way up here, his belt's a little lower. So I had to adjust some of this. I didn't use all the 6 inches here. I actually changed it to 12 inch, which made him a little more cost effective, but I mean, it is what it is, right? Trying to figure it out. His head we're making differently though. So this is a very intricate, twisted head, whereas my police officer, let me see if I can pull up a photo of him, and of course I don't have one. Oh, there we go. So this is their Macy's thing, so you can kind of see what they gave me. So next year they're going to want the clown, so I have to figure out how to do that. And of course they're going to want these elves that come in different sizes and shapes and colors. Luckily that's one recipe with figuring out what color I need where. The turkey we've already done, so if you haven't seen that, I can show you that in a little bit. The dog we have not done, so I don't have a recipe for that yet. The police officer working on this time. This the fireman. That's the hippo that we were given before, and that's the pirate. And then there's Santa, which we have not done. So pretty soon it'll be Santa, fireman, and dog. And that's what we'll be doing. And then I will have the entire group, oh, and clown. And I'll have the entire Macy's stuff here ready to go. But that's what we're working on. So, and I kind of promised them the elf, so I'll have to take care of that next year anyway. Not charge them the additional fee. But yeah, so here's my mess that's happening. Let's go see how Chris is doing. There's some cutters. Our poles, or oh look, oh, we changed it out. So this is where we keep our poles for our knot lamps. So one of my guys that came in, I have someone organize my office about once every couple of weeks or so whenever we do a big job. So he labeled it pole vault. I thought it was pretty exciting. And then yeah, plenty of boxes from other stuff. So oh, pallets. Yeah, pallets are great. And then we actually took these off of another job. And then boom, we've got Chris working on these guys. What he's doing right now actually takes a little bit longer because he's essentially going against physics. He's taking a 12-inch and turning it into a 6-inch because no one was able to get me 6 inches in time. But here's part of our police body here, and it's going to have another, like, I don't know, 2 foot of feet on it, and then another 2 foot or 3 or 4 foot of head on top. So it's going to be easily 10 foot or more. And then that's the pirate guy. One of you guys were asking about how I price a job, so
very carefully.
Yeah, very carefully. So when I got this guy, I came up with this. When I price it, I have to figure out how many balloons I need, and then I have to figure out how to make it. It takes an hour and a half to make the body alone. So one of these, that takes an hour and a half to make with a cool machine. So that's actually like 3 to 4 hours worth of actual work, right? So that's how I price. I look at what I need materials-wise, which this is not a complete list. Then I take the time for each section. So body, arms, legs, assembly, head, assembly, framing, setup on site, right? So then I figure out how many artists I need. And because of the artists I need and the man hours, I can figure out the labor cost. I add in the balloon cost, and then any additional cost, and then I have my price to client and my profit. And cash closet's kind of balloon cost minus what you don't use, or minus what you actually use. So to give you an example of that, let me get away from that balloon pump because it may or may not be loud to you guys, but it's messing with my concentration. So what I do is I take the cost of the balloons. So I get a bag of 100 balloons for 12 bucks, right? And say that $12 bag of balloons, I only use 50 of the balloons. So that means that I have spent $6 on the balloons. Deanna, yeah, I do a lot of winging it too, but once I wing it once, I make sure I have a recipe so I don't have to wing it again. But yeah, so to get back to answering your question, a $12 bag of balloon, what I only use half of, means I'm using $6 in product. So my product cost is $6. My cash closet is $6. To me, as a business owner, that $6 cash closet, even though I could possibly, maybe if we're lucky, use that in the future for another job, is still a cost. There's no way I'm going to recoup that unless someone else hires me for maybe not the exact same job, but for the exact same size and shape and color of balloons, which some of these happen all the time. Like if you get white 12-inch rounds, I use that on almost every job that I can, so that's not a big deal. But if you're getting like leopard print spotted balloons or something crazy that only works at certain events, or black and white zebra print, which you can pitch to a lot of people, but those bags, for instance, instead of being $12, are like $25 for a bag of 50. So they're 4 times more expensive than a regular bag of balloons, and you don't get to actually use them all. So because of that, I try to stay away from counting my cash closet as profit, if you will. So I still count that as cost. So I don't remember all the numbers right now. I have them all written down, and I do it after the fact because I've done it before, so I'm pretty good at guessing, but after the fact I figure it out exactly. But if I spent $300 on buying balloons for a turkey, which I just did last week, did a 6-foot turkey, so I buy $300 worth of balloons, I might only use maybe $200 of balloons of that 300, but that $100 of balloons that I didn't use, I had to open those bags. I had to pull some balloons out of them. Some of them I use a little, some I use a lot, some are popular colors and shapes and sizes, some are not. So because of that, I have to account for the full 300 being into the cost. So the turkey takes $300 in balloons. It takes, I think it's 10 to 15 man hours, depending on who I have putting it together. If it's me and my top guy, we can get it done in like 8 to 10 hours. If it's Joe Schmo and his helper that came in, it might be 15, could be up to 20 hours, right? So I have it labeled on my paper for 10 hours. So at 10 hours, at 20 bucks an hour, that's another 200 bucks. So that's $300, $400, $500 already that I have to charge for that turkey to break even. And then beyond that, there's perceived value, there's cost of a U-Haul, there's, which I did not need for the turkey, but when I do like 4 and 5 of these, I do need a U-Haul. And then there's also profit for the company and then that kind of stuff. So that's all goes into the pricing. And yeah, I can still unicycle, Wesley. Yeah, I don't have a unicycle. I loaned it to somebody and it conveniently disappeared. But yeah, so that's kind of how I price. So this particular client, I've kind of locked them in at basically 600 bucks a piece, which is really, really cheap for these things. I highly recommend not opening your mouth before you do the math. But essentially what I do is I charge her an extra, I call it like design fee, because I do have to buy extra balloons. I do waste money on stuff like, I don't know if you can see this, but like these are balloon bags that we haven't opened yet. Well, we're not done with the figures, but we haven't opened these bags yet. So because of that, I have to prepare ahead of time. So that could be $100 in balloons or more that I didn't touch because I needed to be prepared because I wasn't sure how to put everything together, because until you have the balloons in your hand and you're making something with it, it's really hard to guesstimate that stuff. But yeah, so I basically call that a design fee. And so next year, instead of being price plus design fee, it's just straight price. But I also know exactly what I need, exactly how much. I know what I liked and didn't like about the current design. I can make it better or worse. The first hippo I did had ginormous feet for some reason. I was in the middle of making it. I had already done the math, and I said, oh, 8 doesn't look good. Let's do 10. And yeah, that was the stupidest thing I could have ever have done, of not following the math. If you do the math ahead of time, trust the math. Don't make up stuff on the fly. So long story short, I changed the recipe back to what it originally was, and now I have the original, better recipe for the hippo, which is what I showed you with the smaller legs. The turkey, I've made 3 times. Took a lot of effort and energy. I totally winged it on the wings, on the tail. But when I got done with it, I wrote down all the stuff that I did, and I was able to get a fairly accurate recipe. And so this time, I literally just knocked out the recipe, made it work. Now, realistically, with that tail, it has to be so precise to get it to stand up straight and flat on the back that there's 2 options. We can either spend the extra hour and a half making it perfect, or we can just make it really quick and then tie it together and use framing and monofilament to put it where we want it. So that's what we ended up doing, because that actually is quicker, saves me a lot more time, effort, and energy, and still looks pretty freaking good. So that's what we do with the turkey. I need to write more details on the face and the head, which I realized this time that I made it, now the 3rd time. 1, 2, maybe the 4th time that I've made it now. I realized that I have to size the head correctly. Recipe, oh yeah, so I totally had Chris come into the office today and grab me some munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts, and they were delicious. But anyway, so let's go see what he's doing, then I'll probably wrap up for you guys, and I'll get back to doing the work I'm supposed to be doing in case, unless there's like questions or something. So go in the office. There's our wonderful palette. So we stole these balloons like 3 weeks ago from another event. We went by and saw them, and Chris says, hey, my kid has a birthday in a month. You think they'll last? And I said, yeah, sure. So they're still up here. I mean, we're going to touch them up with helium. So you just kind of grab the spot there, knock it up with some helium. They still float, but they'll look nicer, right? So that's what we're doing. And then, so we've got this guy working on these guys here. So what these are going to be, these are going to be the round pieces that go around that make up the width of the arm. And then some of these are going to be the length of the arm that go down. I guess you can't see what I'm pointing to when... Oh, there we go. That goes down the length of the arm. So that's what those are. And we're doing those specifically for this guy. So 2 of those rings that go around and make the width are going to be yellow. And then all the connecting piece this way is going to be blue. So we're going to do that for both arms. And then down here we're going to do something similar, where all but the 2 bottom rings are blue and the bottom rings are black. And then these go blue, 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 black, down to the bottom all the way around. So that's how we make our tubes, which is essentially the same method we did for the body. And then we have to figure out the foot, the hand, and I've got recipe for the face, but we'll see how that turns out. Anyway, that's Mr. Fudge here at the office downtown. We were putting together some balloons for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. See if we can get a nice little background photo there. Almost. Yeah, I fail at selfies. Perfect. All right, there you go. You guys enjoy. Have a good time.